Okay, I want to talk a little more policy before we get back to, we're going to go to Cleveland next and talk to Luke Vargas and Jackie Koppel at the RNC. After that horrible attack in Nice, France that I told you about, where 84 people were killed, Donald Trump called into a bunch of news programs, including Fox News' O'Reilly Factor, hosted by Bill O'Reilly. And his talking point has been to demand that Congress declare a war on ISIS. So there are basically two issues here. First is, what is the meaning of, or sort of significance of, declaring war on ISIS? And second is, what are declarations of war? Let's go to that second issue first. A declaration of war is when there is a formal declaration issued by a country's government that a state of war exists between that country and another country. Now, you can probably already see what the problem is, but let's put a pause on that. It's actually pretty rare that the U.S. declares war formally. The last formal declaration of war by the U.S. was World War II on June 5th of 1942 against Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania. The Iraq War, contrary to what some may think, had no formal declaration of war. Instead, George W. Bush authorized a military engagement via House Joint Resolution 114. So number one, the idea that these declarations of war are just handed out like candy, it's actually really quite rare. And we've had many of what we would describe as wars without that formal declaration. So the meaning of it is questionable. But let's get back to the first part. ISIS, ISIL, whatever, it's not a country, right? ISIS has presences in Iraq and Syria, but as we know, isolated cells in various European countries, operatives presumably in the US. How do you declare war against them, and would it even mean anything? How does a nation, Lewis, declare war when the enemy is individuals with no allegiance to a sovereign nation, in fact, often rejecting the existence of many of those nations?
You mean sort of like the war on drugs or the war on terror?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, same idea. This is the bigger issue that has come up, which is what exactly would that even achieve? And there are many who believe that Congress can authorize a war without officially declaring it. And then there are others who actually go back to what I told you about June 5th, 1942, who say no U.S. president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt has actually respected the Constitution enough to seek these formal declarations of war. So it's very important as we think about who to vote for in November, that this is yet another instance of Donald Trump being totally clueless. The practical perspective doesn't really make any sense, but also what would be accomplished? What changes if we had this completely implausible declaration of war? I don't know.
Well, I mean, what is a declaration of war other than just something symbolic? If Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan, if none of these were wars, I mean, what does it really mean?
Or if they happened without a formal declaration anyway. I mean, it's hard to deny that they were wars, but certainly no formal war was declared.
The formal declaration. So other than just something symbolic, I'm not sure what it means.
You know what it might do, though?
What?
More funding for the war machine.
There will always be funding for the war machine, yeah. And so something symbolic that Donald Trump wants politicians to do as some means of uniting people or what, I don't know.
It's more of the clueless foreign policy that will be the United States if Donald Trump is elected president. Talk to us about this story and any others from today on our Facebook page at facebook.com/David Pakman Show. We will take a quick break. And next, we will go to Cleveland, Ohio, and talk to our two correspondents on the ground there at the Republican National Convention.